Call to order the Ashland Board of Commissioners meeting for Thursday, January 25th, 2024. We'll start with invocation, then Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord, we come this noonday meeting thanking you for our city, Ashland, Kentucky. We ask your Holy Spirit to fill our chambers and to preside over our meeting today. We ask for your divine wisdom and guidance on this Board of Mayor and Commissioners as we strive to make the right decisions for our city and in the best interests of our citizens. Bless our city manager, our staff and employees, and those in attendance today. We pray always in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to receive and file the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have a motion to receive and file the minutes for the regular meeting held on December 14th, 2023, and the recessed meeting held on December 15th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Commissioners, if you will allow me to begin today, first off, welcome everybody. We're glad to see so many faces and some familiar. Mr. Cole, good to see you waving back there. Gotcha. But first off, I do want to make note of something that's pretty important to us as a commission. Recently, you may have seen in the paper that our water treatment plant received notification that they would receive the Water Quality Excellence Award by meeting the AWOP standards. What is that? It's the Area-Wide Optimization Program, which sets standards that are more stringent than regulatory requirements. Those who achieve this recognition are going above and beyond what is required or expected. This creates a mindset change over time where operators no longer treat the regulatory requirements as standard. They treat the more stringent goals as the standard. Ashland is one of about 40 of 140 plants in the state who qualify for this award, which goes to those plants producing the highest quality drinking water. Ashland was last awarded this certificate from the AWOP in 2006. This award comes on the heels of sustained disinfection by product rule compliance for what is approaching 7 consecutive years, and the award for Kentucky Water and Wastewater Operators Association Eastern Chapter Plant of the Year for 2022. This commission is so proud of our water treatment plant employees, our utility employees, all of our employees, but specifically in water production because, as you know, this city had major challenges early on. We fought them. This commission funded projects that were so desperately needed. We gave the staff the tools that they needed so that they could get this corrected. And not only have they corrected it, but they have gone above and beyond our wildest expectations with quality standards being improved and obviously no notice of violation in your water bills, which I think we were familiar with for so many years. So I'd like to recognize those in attendance today, if they would come up, as their name is mentioned, the main man, Bill Stambo.
Yay, Bill.
Jeff Camp.
Bill.
Austin Barker. Nick Brown. Jim Rogers, Bill Stevens, Austin Brenniger, Mike, is it Menard or Miniard? Miniard? Okay. And not in attendance today is Sam Nunley, Dylan Coburn, Frank Worsley, Jeremy Coleman, and Kelsey Queen. Folks, this is what our city needs to be focused on are taking care of our citizens and their most basic needs, and water production is one of them. We have safe drinking water, and we're proud to see this accomplishment today in front of these guys. We want you all to know, if you don't mind turning to us, thank you,
we get a
each and
picture with you?
every one
Yes,
of you
thank
all.
you. Thank
We
you.
are so appreciative.
we
You
get
all
a-
have done amazing work. Thank you all.
Can we get a picture with them?
Yeah.
I want to get a picture with y'all. Yeah, let's get a picture with you.
Appreciate you. We're going to get a picture, I think, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you for your good work.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
for your good work.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, big guy.
Thanks so much.
All right, we're going to get a
Thank you.
picture.
We gotta, are we going down?
Normally, you just have to call them by their first name. I'm not used to doing the last names. Good way to start the meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Clark.
Oh, I get to go first, and I don't really have a whole lot. But welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate you being here. I guess coming up in the nearest future before our next meeting is the Highlands Museum and Discovery Center's Dancing with Our Stars. That's February the 3rd, and I believe that event is completely sold out. Have they sold out the watch party? There's you have the availability to watch the event at the Mill, and you can go to the museum's website to find those tickets as well. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner Blanton.
Well, good to see everybody today. Thanks for joining us today. I want to say a big thank you to, of course, our streets team and our sanitation employees who are out there working through everything we've been through in the last couple of weeks weather-wise. They do a phenomenal job. Our state employees do a phenomenal job as well. Also want to say, we've had a few water line breaks recently, right? And it's okay to talk about those. But the good thing about now, living in Ashland now, is there's a plan behind those breaks. And there's a plan for prioritizing and replacing our water lines ahead of time. Every city's going to have water line breaks when you go through extreme temperature differences like we've had. At my plant right now, the entrance to our plant is shut down because the rail, where the ground was frozen and then thawed out, the rail shifted, and we had to completely tear it out and fix it. Things happen when you have major temperature changes like that. But it is great to know that plan, which started before I came along, that investment was made to make sure that we have a good plan going forward for our water lines and prioritizing, and that's what our citizens deserve. Want to say a big congratulations to the Blazer academic team for their district championship, first place overall and first place in quick recall. So a big congratulations to them for that. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Spriggs.
Thank you. It's good to see everybody. And thank you, Josh, for mentioning that. My son used to be on the quick recall team, and it's really good to see that, the Bradiacs get a little,
Attention.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw that the fire department has had some training lately, and I wonder if I could get the fire chief to come up and tell us about the training you just did.
Mayor and Commissioners, we recently, due to the cold weather, were able to perform some ice rescue training utilizing the pond at Central Park. Sean and his staff were very accommodating in allowing us to come over and practice some techniques. We have 3 certified technicians on the department that have ice rescue certifications, and they were able to teach techniques to the other members. And it was a unique opportunity to be presented with that situation, to be able to perform that training. So And like to thank Sean and his staff for making that occur and giving us some realistic areas to train in.
No goldfish were harmed during this event? Good, good.
How many took the training?
Approximately about 10 on each shift, so a total of 20.
That's great.
So-
I'm really glad to hear that you're always doing that continuing.
Yes,
kind of
very
thing.
unique
So-
opportunity that presented itself due to the weather conditions and having the facilities.
Well, we appreciate all the training you all do, and I dare say we have the best fire department in the state, if not the country, based on training and professionalism.
Thank
So we
you, thank you.
appreciate
And a lot of that comes from the support that you all give us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, I think, this commission takes providing essential services to our citizens, what we're charged to do, very seriously. And I think we're all really happy that you do this, so we're ready and trained for anything. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to tell you one other thing.
Go for
that
it.
really surprised me. When I was checking my bank account, I saw a deposit from the city for my check, and it was $303. I got a whopping $4.85 raise. A $4.85 raise. Can you believe it? I mean, unbelievable. But the reason I brought this up is because there was a statement made at the meeting in December that said we voted ourselves a 41% raise. KRS law says commissioners cannot vote themselves a raise. We did vote on a raise, but that doesn't take effect until January 2025. So I just wanted to clarify that with everybody. Thanks.
Okay. And last but not least, Commissioner Goot.
I just want to welcome everybody. We've been busy, and I'd just like to say thank you to the local NAACP and the Ashland Ministerial Association for an outstanding MLK Day. Probably the best that we've ever been to.
I would agree.
It was 6 reenactments of famous civil rights people from the past, and it was very well put on. It was a tremendous day at the Transportation Center. I want to commend everybody involved. And then I want to commend Chuck Charles and the Kiwanis Club, Breakfast Kiwanis Club, and Noon Kiwanis Club for their charter ceremony. I was at there Tuesday. They started the first and the largest Kiwanis Action Club in the state of Kentucky, and they have over 50 members. This action club is made solely of people with disabilities, and it was a really, really moving ceremony there out there at the Malibu Jack's party room out there, probably 100 people in attendance. But all these members are people with disabilities, and I'd like to commend the Kiwanis Club in our area for chartering this. And last but not least, all of us here in Ashland are recipients of a heritage of Armco Steel. I personally hired in at Armco Steel June the 9th, 1973. It was 5 days after I graduated from high school. And I was among 5,000 employees at that time. As you know, the steel industry has evolved, but we are erecting some monuments on the Riverfront Trail. If you go down there, you'll see an ingot, you'll see an ingot mold, and you'll see a slab. These are things of days gone by of Armco Steel. And right now, Larry Bailey with Speedy Signs has a sign that he's going to erect tomorrow, hopefully, weather permitting. And I went down there a few minutes ago and saw it. It's a wonderful sign describing our heritage with Armco Steel. And probably in the next couple of weeks, we will be announcing a ribbon cutting down there. That's all I have.
All right. We now will move on to our city manager's report and the much anticipated end of the year report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick to piggyback on what Commissioner Goode had said, I'd also like to thank Erica and Kim Jenkins also. They provided a lot of time, the Commissioner did too, to get the verbiage on that straight, because we wanted to make sure that we did it right. So thanks to everybody that had a hand in getting that plaque together. Okay, slide please. If you all notice, in the front of the dais, there's handouts that are going to have a lot more details than what I'm going to cover for last year's accomplishments. It's about 46 pages long. The font is kind of small, but it really encapsulates everything that the staff did last year. I'm just going to try to hit some of the highlights. I'm not going to talk every one of these points, But I did want to bring out some things that I think the community will find interesting. Also, it will be posted, if it's not already, on the city website. So with that, we'll start. You can see there in solid waste, of note, there was 9,200 tons of municipal solid waste treated this year or taken care of. In the city garage, central garage, 1,900 repair orders were completed. The significance of that is that's not work that we'd have to contract out to other companies, which would cost the city and the citizens a lot more money. In animal control, they responded to 859 service calls. Recycling, 860 dumpster loads of recycling were accomplished. I would like to point out that's not near capacity. We still haven't achieved the amount that we were receiving in recycling before COVID. So I would encourage our citizens, and again, if you're not a city resident, you can also get an annual pass down there for $100 per year to use that recycling point. In the ELDT training, if you'll recall, I briefed this before. This was an initiative by the Streets Department and also utilities. The cost of sending people to CDL training, which is a requirement for many of our jobs, was pretty exorbitant, and the team figured out that they could do a train the trainer. And we have two individuals that are mentioned up there, Frank Jones and Scott Dalton. This year, 28 employees received or earned their CDLs, which saved the city about $78,000, which was just an excellent program. And also, something that's a little bit more mundane about that is that they often get to do their practice driving while they're actually doing their job, which is a great benefit for the city. And then finally, on the flood wall, this is coming to take this for granted, but the United States Army Corps of Engineers gives us an annual inspection. And you'll notice that we received acceptable in every category, which is the highest rating you can get, and that's a 5th consecutive year. Also, on the right side of the slide, you'll notice in the Streets Department, one of the significant things that they combined with the Parks Department this year was removing the brush and debris on the west side of the walking area. So it was pretty skanky looking, to say the least. They hydro-seeded that area, and if you haven't been down there in the last couple months, I highly encourage you to go down there and look at that. It is really magnificent, and it looks like the rest of the smooth area of the riverfront park, of Pogue Landing Park. Also, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, the Streets Department installed 1,500 feet of conduit and wire for the parking garage. That's going to be something that we'll mention today in regards to getting internet down there so we can have remote access to it. And here, we do hear comments at times about city needs to do a better job on filling in potholes. Close to 3,000 potholes were filled in last year. So citizens can report those, and Jack and his team usually get those done within 24 hours, weather permitting. And as Commissioner Blanton already mentioned, did a magnificent job on snow removal this year. Moving on to the fire department, just looking at the operations, total number of calls this year, 2,066, which averages to 6 calls a day when we talk about the capabilities of our fire department. Moving down to training, that was already mentioned today, 13,700 hours of training, which equated to about 268 hours of training per person. Fire prevention education, you'll notice 657 fire inspections and 1,033 hydrant flushes. I know that's an inconvenience to the community. We continue to always try to forecast that and notify people because it can have an impact on your laundry. But the safety aspect of ensuring that the right pressure in those fire hydrants is crucial. And it's also a key part of our ISO rating. And then, as always, has been mentioned here, the fire department does an excellent job of going after grants. You'll see 5 grants totaling $156,000 and 5 donations at $11,000, which is money saved from our general fund. Next, please. Moving on to the utilities. They repaired 213 water breaks this year. As Commissioner Blanton mentioned, this is the time of the year when we have that wax and waning between the high and low temperatures. That does cause stress on our pipes. Just to let you know, that's 70 breaks per 100 miles per year. As we've discussed for the past couple of years, the AWWA standard is 14 breaks per 100 miles per year. We're a far way away from that. But as the Commissioner pointed out, I feel very comfortable in what we're triaging so that those breaks have the least impact on people in our community. So great job by water distribution. Also, the mayor mentioned earlier the disinfectant byproduct compliance at 28 straight quarters, which is phenomenal because we were getting the NOV about once a quarter 6 or 7 years ago. Water production, we've already talked about them today, done a great job. SCADA upgrade is finally completed. That's computerized, which makes operations down there much more precise. Also of note, 3.3 billion gallons of water was produced this year, and we've already talked about the awards. Wastewater collection, sewer main replacements, 3,182 feet. And in wastewater treatment, you'll notice that as a fourth year out of 6 year that they've been notified for earning, they qualify for the Operational Excellence Award. And while our goal will be 6 out of 6 years, I think everybody's familiar with the fact that that plant is extremely, extremely old. We're working to do a very significant upgrade on it that's by consent decree. And for them to reach those standards, given those conditions, is simply amazing. And then you'll notice $1.1 million, or 1.1 billion gallons of wastewater treated. Next, please. Engineering, a lot of the topics that we talk about in here, US 23 road, water line replacement, water pump station, emergency generators, both ongoing, wastewater treatment plant upgrade, which I mentioned. We expect to go to bid on that in the next couple of months, Mayor and Commissioners, which is the last part of the consent decree, as I mentioned. Looking at building and street projects, Winchester Avenue street improvements, which I'll give an update on in a few minutes. Dixon Street Phase 3 is totally completed. And I've mentioned before, if you haven't been over there to see that, it's really fantastic. And I think we have a before and after picture in the long version of the 2023 accomplishments. And we're hoping that we have the budget to afford to do Phase 4 this year. Infrastructure, road resurfacing. We have about 140 miles of road in the city, and we did 17.3 miles of resurfacing this year. That was about 12% of the surface space. And also a sidewalk replacement. You'll notice 11,000 linear feet of sidewalks replaced. Moving on to risk management, dropping down to property and casualty. Mr. Atkin managed 167 cases, 130 new property liability claims. Next slide, please. And also, this is of great note. If you look at employee safety, look at the recordable incident rate, the days away, lost time, and the days away and restricted duty, and look at the city of Ashland averages versus the national average. 3.2 to 6.5, 0.6 to 2.3, and 1.2 to 3.3, which is a great reflection not just of Mike, but also the leadership that you see at that back table to ensure that our employees are operating in a safe environment. Moving down to human resources, we implemented Bamboo HR software, which many people outside the city wouldn't really know or care about, but that enables our employees to update their records much easier. We can query information on a much quicker basis, and it also enables us to go to more paperless. We did accomplished over 1,000 e-signature documents this year, so each one of those is at least one piece of paper that doesn't have to be processed. Moving on to finance, just staggering for the Comprehensive Annual Finance Award, 16th consecutive year for that, and the Distinguished Budget Award, the 9th consecutive year. So kudos to Tony and Michelle, their leadership of that department. Moving on to Parks and Rec, you see the photograph of the couple of parks, Wendell Banks Southside Park, pun intended on the bark, Oliverio Park, and then a new fence at the riverfront. Also, what's not on this slide, but it's detailed in the full handout, they coordinated north of 1,400 events this year. Think about that, ball games, weddings, funerals, all those things that go on in the park, 1,400 above that the staff coordinated and did so in an excellent fashion. Next. Public information. One of the things I wanted to highlight here is that Erica played a pretty pivotal role in getting the Appalachian Regional Commission here. So that's not a measurable statistic, but ARC was here, which was an amazing thing that this community got that. So a great kudos to her. She worked hand in hand with Mr. Moore to get our trademark finally locked in for the city logo. Grew Facebook by approximately 2,700 users, and you can see the reach of 555,000 compared to 362,000 last year. In community and economic development.
Oh, could I say something?
Yes, please.
I want to thank Erica Bonner for coming to Ashland Rotary Club Monday, and she made a great presentation on the roundabouts and what's going on in Winchester Avenue. So I wanted to thank her for that publicly.
Thank you, Commissioner. In community and economic development, Ms. McKenzie has created a comprehensive How to Start a Business packet, which provides valuable resources for aspiring small businesses. Looking down in building inspections, they've actively addressed and resolved over 4,000 code enforcement cases, and a total of 537 permits were processed. In assisted housing, of great pride this year, we were consistently performing at high performance in years past. There's been a huge turnover in staff over the last couple of years in CED, and that assisted housing was one of them. So we were a standard performer last year. We're back to the high performing. You'll also notice they issued 319 low-income vouchers to low-income families and gave Section 8 assistance to 119 new families. Also, because of the execution of the program and the budget, we are able to get $331,000 in additional budget to improve and have access to housing needs. Next. In the block grant CDBG area, the Carroll Jackson Center hosted 46 events this year. That's only about 4 months, so that's great, but I just want to point out to the community that is a great resource over there that the community could use for events on a regular basis. Provided 551 food boxes to 160 households. And the CDG program secured a brownfield grant. You'll notice some of those things associated with that on today's agenda. That's valued at $500,000. For APD, responded to 23,000 calls this year. That's an average of 63 calls a day. Total arrests, 1,300. And if you drop down to the bottom of the accomplishments list, many people aren't aware of this, but the digital forensic lab that we have in the APD rivals that at the state and in the region. It is utilized by other law enforcement agencies. Chief has worked out agreements with other communities that can't afford something like that to get to really work some really tough cases. So great forward-leaning thinking, Chief, by you and your department, and it gives us a capability that so many people have no clue of what we can do to get some really nefarious characters. They've employed 7 new police officers, and also worth note is employed 6 school resource officers in accordance with guidance from the state. And then finally, the legal department, really critical in our ability to get the national opioid litigation funds. They ensured citizens' First Amendment rights were protected, whether that's on marches and events. Gave great advice on that. Collections and delinquent taxes, $165,000. And then something that Ms. Maddox there that at the end of the dais does for us, 173 ordinances were drafted, 34 resolutions were drafted, and 27 municipal orders. So a lot. Again, this doesn't even scratch the surface. I strongly encourage you to get that 46-page document, and there's a lot of other things in here that will just make you go, wow. So did I have any questions, Mayor, Commissioners, on the accomplishments?
Well, first off, when I first came on the commission, let's just say that this was not the kind of reporting that we were used to. I think it's important that we get this summary, but I think it's even more important that you get this summary as citizens. So I really appreciate all the hard work in every department and, of course, our city manager pulling this together so that we can show the people that the city is working for the citizens and doing all we can to make it a better place to live and work and play. So thanks so much.
Okay, Mayor, just a couple of other small things. If you could go to the Citizens Academy, we had a fantastic response to that. HR is in the process of notifying the people who can attend and just confirming they can attend, and if they can't, then we're going to drop down on the list. There's too many people to accommodate at once, so we'll probably look at doing another one of these in the fall. But that program will start. The first session is on Tuesday, the 6th of February. Moving on to Winchester update. This graphic or version of this was requested by Commissioner Clark last week, and we'll publish it. Basically, that's the truck routes, and it just shows coming in and going out. And I'd like to thank Brandy and the Visit AKY. They volunteered to pick up on this. They're particularly good at doing what I call cartoon graphics, because this is something that most citizens can look at intuitively and just understand it after looking at it the first time. I also understand, though, I did want to point out, city ordinance states that large trucks are not supposed to be in the downtown area. That comes up on a regular basis. Chief has some interesting engagements with people who violate that, one this week, but did want to point that out. We're also, when I say we, Brandy and her team are also working on another graphic to show just average flow of how you can avoid from major population areas, if you will, in the city, and we'll show that next week. So Erica will post this on the city website in addition to some of the other graphics that they've been posting. Moving on to specific update, these are a couple pictures from the cold weather. We did put out a Facebook post that due to the recent severe cold, the snow and the rain, the opening of the mini roundabouts has been deferred from last Tuesday, and we're targeting next Monday. Just to let you know, they could not pour during that weather, and it would not cure properly during that weather. If we would have tried to force that, we'd be jeopardizing the quality of that project. The contractors did work through last weekend. They worked on the federal holiday to do as much work as they could get done, and they're really trying to maximize the great weather that they have today. In order to open up the roundabouts, a couple things need to be accomplished. The signage has to get up. Again, without that signage, it's going to be problematic for people to understand the first couple times they go through there. The splitters, which are the, can you go to the other slide? Yeah, you'll kind of see that to the, yeah, right in front of, on the lower center of that, you'll see the outline in white. Those are the splitters. The curbs have been poured on those, but the inside, which mirrors the roundabouts and also the median, which has the stamped, it looks like bricks, that has to be poured too. So that's going to be rain dependent. If it rains when they're trying to stamp that, it's going to turn into a mess, but they're going to try to get that done today if possible. Also, they need to fill in areas between the curbs and the sidewalks. That's a safety issue. And then the striping, which is also critical for driver orientation, has to be done, and that's going to be rain dependent over the next day or two, but we're targeting Monday. This will be, they will concentrate on getting these roundabouts open and then concentrate on the rest of the work that we've described on 15th and 16th, between 15th and 16th Street to get that done to the heart of our downtown and have that open as soon as possible. Next, please. I just wanted to show you all this picture. That area is marked for vehicles not to go into. This individual decided to go past signs and drove into fresh concrete. That concrete had to be repaired by the contractors, which set them back for something that's totally avoidable. Unfortunately, I don't think we were able to track down this vehicle yet, but I'm begging the community. I love the spirit of Eastern Kentucky, I do, but don't go around the doggone, the block. It really is causing problems.
They're that excited about the roundabouts.
They wanted, I've heard more than one people say they want to be the first on the roundabout. Maybe this was the case there. And then
What
the,
happens to the concrete and the treads of the tire? I mean, is that, I guess they flung it out when they.
I don't want to find out,
Oh,
but,
man, yeah.
I think that car's in my garage. My
Mike,
wife.
if there's a request for a case on this, you'll know that'll be denied. But the last thing I want to say on this is that the next focus, we're not going to do the other mini roundabouts, the 17th and 18th, for a couple weeks after we get done with 15th and 16th Street. So there'll be a short reprieve for a couple of weeks. The contractors, like everything else, they've learned some lessons as they've done this. So we expect the next ones to go as well or better, God willing, and given the weather. Mayor and Commissioners, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we're going to go into public participation. Anyone with a comment or request may come to the podium and address the commission concerning matters related to city business, services, or personnel. Comments related to election issues or concerning personal disputes will not be allowed. Personal attacks, obscene or threatening language will not be tolerated. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes. Yellow light indicates 30 seconds remain. Red light means the time limit has expired. Only one speaker is permitted per subject. No action will be taken at this meeting. Those with comments are asked to fill an inquiry form and leave it with the city clerk for distribution to the proper city department. Would anybody like to come forward at this time? Wow. Oh, okay. Welcome.
I was very glad to see all the participation, everybody here today, especially the employees. My name's William Reeves. My address is 207 Providence Hill Drive, apartment 90. I'm here as a volunteer also for the KPU, Kentucky People's Union. I was curious how many of you all got to see the article about the KPU that was on MSNBC.
I did. Yep.
Yeah, we were quite proud of that. But anyway, I wanted to invite you all to a potluck dinner. This one's a little short notice. It's this Saturday at 1 o'clock at the Carroll Jackson Center. And we're also going to have a community breakfast on Saturday, February 24th at the Calvary Episcopal Church at 10 a.m. So you would have the opportunity to talk to us instead of us talking to you. First thing we want to find out is I reviewed the memorandum from Mr. Gracie and City Attorney and gave a number of $130,000. And I was basically flabbergasted, trying to figure out where did this number come from. So I'd like to request, not now obviously, a breakdown of the $130,000 and see what items are accounted for in that. Other thing in connection with all that is what actions have been taken to enforce the requirement that landlords register under the ordinance. Does anybody have any knowledge about that?
Sir, as I briefed, I think last week or two meetings before, first in regards to the $130,000, that was a combination of salary, benefits, and retirement.
Yeah.
So it's not a $130,000 salary. Also software that would be enabled to track that.
record.
And also one-time cost for office supplies, desks, computer, things of that nature. So that's roughly what the $130,000 for. And your second question was what? I'm sorry.
What actions have been taken to
Thank you.
enforce the ordinance you all passed 2 years ago?
Thank you. We did recently put on the city website a reminder for landlords to register, and in the upcoming utility bills, there'll be a flyer that will go out in the 1,400. How many utilities do we have, Michelle and Tony?
14,000, I think.
14,000. 14,000 flyers that will go out as a reminder for landlords to register.
So was it made clear they're required to?
I don't know the details on that, but I don't know the
The ordinance
specific
said
language.
they're required to.
I understand the ordinance. I don't remember if it specifically says that.
Okay.
But we can find out.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it does. I didn't write it, but I looked at the language. I think Chris's department did, and it has that, tells them they're required and tells them what the penalty is, does it not, Chris? It does. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the action.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back.
Welcome back. And just name and address, please.
Kathy Mead, 1427 Grandview Drive. Okay, my first time here was in November, and there was a lady that spoke after me from this Kentucky People's Union, and she was harping on the landlord registration thing as well. So, Mr. Gracie, process person, I'm a process person. I go home, I get on my computer, find the web page, scroll down to ordinances, and I start looking for this ordinance. So you just mentioned you looked it up. Can you give me the ordinance number, date for this landlord dictate?
Our
Please.
clerk.
For the registration?
Yeah.
I don't know the number right offhand. The ordinances, when they're passed, they're given a number, they go in the official book, and then once a year, there's a registry,
AmericanLegal.com.
which publishes it, and you can search in there by the name, and they come up, they have different numbers in there. But they have
It's
different
ordinance number
systems.
73, 2021,
73/20/21.
and the nuisance ordinance is ordinance number 72, 2021.
2021. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so the lady that spoke after me in the November meeting, mentioned that it was passed in 2021.
Correct.
So I go to the database and I'm looking. The database does not have a search window where I could have typed in landlord, rental, any keyword.
You're talking about the ordinance website?
I'm talking about the ordinance
We
website.
share that frustration.
Okay, so that's AmericanLegal.com. So there's a couple of ways to get to the ordinances There's a couple of ways to get to the ordinances on the website. And I've spent a lot of time in there. I've learned a lot of stuff, but I can't find what I'm looking for, right? What I did notice is that historically, or hysterically, up to 1994, we've got very good data. And then after 1994, I don't know what happened. And then if you click and point, you can find ordinances by dates. So this person just said that there were 2 ordinances in 2021. When I sort by date and find by date, I do not find any entries in the database for 2017, 2022, or 2020 or 2022. And I know, during 2020, we were all in COVID trauma, right? But that still doesn't excuse the fact that whatever business took place during the traumatic year, it's not recorded. Not only that, I didn't find anything in 2021 relating to this landlord edict, right? So who up there can tell me where it's broken? Can you mail it to me? Can you email it to me? Because I own 4 whole rental houses. So I'm a landlord, and I'm interested in this. Right?
Well,
I didn't know that was an issue,
It
so
doesn't
we'll
either.
definitely dive into it.
I'll just, it's not easy.
It isn't
It's
easy.
not
You
an
go up
easy-
to the top right, there's 3 little dots, and I've been through this on my phone.
Little
many times.
dots.
I think
And there's a search.
I think the city
Yeah.
clerk might be able to help you with that if you would speak to her after the meeting.
She may be able to help
Those
us.
records are
Yeah.
there. She can tell you how to
I
navigate
agree
it.
with you 100%. It's not an easy website to use, but there's 3 dots, and then a box pops down, and the first one says search. And then there's a screen where you can search year, you can search words, you can search all of it. But it's 3 tiny little dots.
I can find it. So thank you, because that's how I block people on Facebook. Yeah. Click the 3 dots. But anyway, okay, so if I can search that way, I will certainly go do it. But the other thing is, for the list that shows by year, those years are missing. So I don't know how you rectify pulling in 2017, 2020, and 2022 data on the drop-down. Y'all follow me?
I've
Like
never
filtering it
I've
down?
never searched by year, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. If you get in there and play, on the left-hand menu, you can click ordinances, and there's a header for ordinances, and you click that, and it will show you ordinances by year. And I have one more thing regarding ordinance data. Sorry. The last thing is, when you find an ordinance, a random ordinance, because I was randomly looking, right? The ordinances, which you're going to get into here in a minute, and this is what I asked Marty before the meeting started, the ordinances call out supplements, right? So it says supplement S86 and S88 is going to be passed, and you're going to talk about it, and you'll yay or nay it, right? So when I do pull open an ordinance on this database, it'll say on this date in 2024, this commission passed this ordinance. And it will call out supplements 86 and 88. But there's no link to the content of what is in 86 and 88. The only thing it tells me is you passed 86 and 88. But I have no idea what it means. So in theory, if this holds true, that I go and I actually search and I find 73 and 72 from 2021, it's going to say, oh, S88 and S82 were passed. And as a landlord, I'm still not going to see the content. Sure. So is there a library, or is there some other electronic shortcut where you can read the supplemental details?
Okay. Well, I think the answer probably should be yes, because the information received to us as a body would be accessible through the Freedom of Information Act if upon request. But beyond that, I don't know how much more we can make it accessible through that specific company that we contract with to post on the internet. Am I summarizing correctly? It's
The supplements are just the updates.
Yeah.
that
to the existing ordinances
we
and
send them
supplemental,
in,
yeah.
Yes, quarterly. they do supplement 88, which is like all the ordinances that were adopted in a quarter. So there's technically nothing in supplement 86,
Got it.
87, other than we're adopting, putting into the code the ordinances.
The
that we
ordinance,
adopted.
okay.
If you go to that source, the ordinances you adopt today, second reading, are not going to be in that source for probably almost a year. We send them in quarterly, but I think it's yearly that they supplement it, isn't it? Or maybe they
They
do.
try to
They
do
do
it
more often than
themselves,
that, but
yeah.
it's not going to be there immediately. They're going to be in the official register kept by the city clerk immediately. Every ordinance ever passed is there, but it's not an electronic database. They're here. They're kept, by state law in an ordinance book for each year, every ordinance.
So as a citizen, if I wanted to come down here and read 72 and 73 from 2021.
Absolutely. You just come to
Just-
city clerk's office and she'll help you.
We just hand them to you.
You just hand them to me. That's great.
She'll find it, make a copy, and
Maybe
give
a
it to you.
copy. Okay. So I'll
Yes.
try to search, and if I want a hard copy of the contents, I come to you, right?
Yeah, or you can print it out from the city code, which is American Legal Publishing.
I've been there.
Got it.
I didn't find anything I wanted to print. Thank you all
Hey,
very much.
Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
Appreciate
Thank you.
letting us know.
We're all enlightened now, geez.
Yes. Okay, welcome.
Hi,
Hey.
Lana White, still at 1729 Beverly Boulevard, Ashland. Thank you for letting me talk. I hate to come up here. I don't want you guys to see me as a chronic complainer, because I think my friends could tell you I'm really not a chronic complainer, although sometimes it sounds like it when I'm up here at the podium. But I'm just really, I'm really worried about the state of finances in Ashland right now. And I understand I missed the last city commission meeting because I was out of town. But I understand during that meeting, there was talk of granting even more raises to more people within the city. And I'm not opposed of paying people what they're worth, and I'm not opposed to granting reasonable raises. I don't get raises. I live on a fixed income, and my Social Security took a hit of about $400 this year because I made a huge capital gains last year, and so I'm paying now 3 times as much for Medicare as I was. So anyway, I don't get raises, but I just wonder, okay, before we continue on with all these raises that we're discussing in the city, has there been a study done as far as economic forecast in the city over the long term to assure me and other taxpayers in this city that this city can sustain these types of expenditures without my pocketbook being hit? And if such a study has been done, can I see it? And if such a study has been done, has it taken into account the fact that long-term projections indicate that the city of Ashland is going to continue to lose population like it has done over the last few years, and which means there'll be fewer and fewer people paying more and more bills. So I'm asking. So if anybody wants to address that.
Well, I will tell you that we, as a commission, take every request for payment or raise or whatever in regards to city expenses very seriously. Obviously, it's tax dollars that are used to make things happen. I think today's summary by the city manager is proof that we're spending a lot of money in the right places where it's needed. To your point, the only thing I would say is while projections seem to be that population is in decline, the most recent summary from the census is that this is the smallest drop in population that we have seen in maybe 20 or 30 years. We like to think optimistically, and that we hope to turn that around by doing things and trying to be a city that is ready for the next generation, whatever they need for family, whatever they need for jobs. To do that, we have to make sure that we pay our people appropriately and to make sure that we have the proper leadership in place so that our city can thrive. And I think most people, if you talk to people in the community, and I know you do, just like me, you hear a lot of people saying Ashland has turned a corner. And I think it's because we have been willing to do things differently for once. So I appreciate your time.
Well,
I wanna say
one,
s- I
one.
wanna say
go-
something,
Yes,
too.
uh-huh.
I still think it's a good idea for a city to do a 3 to 5 year pro forma type thing, a projection.
And I
of-
think you
of where-
requested that, and I think we were all in
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah,
So
I
is
think
that
we're-
being done right now? Is that?
I would assume that our finance department, along with our city manager, are going to have those ready for us by our time we have a budget meeting.
Hopefully.
I'd have to talk to finance.
No.
I do want to point out one thing, Ms. White. By KRS, the state or the city has to have a balanced budget every year. As part of the budget process, analysis is done in regards to projections for revenue, impact on revenue, growth at KDMC. I'm with the mayor. I prefer to find. I'm not saying you're being pessimistic. I think you're being realistic. But KDMC growth is a very positive thing. I know I don't want to speak for finance. I know there's concern that we are a
Aging population.
no, not just that. That we have all our eggs in one basket, so to speak.
He's not talking about me there.
And there's a, there is concern about our revenue sources. I mean, it's why Community Economic Development, Ashland Alliance continue to try to not just go after big industry, but also why we're doing the project downtown and other projects in the city to improve quality of life, to make it more attractive for people to come and invest. I mean, the whole concept that people can work, they don't have to be in a certain city to work, they can work remotely. That's another reason why we're trying to improve the quality of life here to attract those people. Anecdotally, you can see movement from high tax states, California, New York, et cetera, that we hope to benefit on. As far as a long-term analysis, I don't think we've done that in the past. I don't think that exists. And to be frank with you, I've not followed up, Commissioner, after our last meeting on the directive from the commission. So we owe the community an update on that.
Okay, thank you.
Just one comment, because what you're describing is, when I first started, I looked at it the same way, like, okay, I see this expense or that expense. Well, how do I rectify that with with everything, right? So a really good place to get that information and to kind of form that whole picture, because, whatever groceries I can afford for the week, I need to understand what my income is and my other expenses, right? And so it's a much bigger scale on the city level, but it's the same idea. Our budget sessions that were held, I think at least the last 2 or 3 years, are on our YouTube page, and they're long. I mean, there's hours and hours, but there's really good information in there, because for me, that is more of a learning session than anything, because finance and the department directors and city managers are kind of telling us what's happened and what we've got to look at, and, we're all sitting together and figuring out the budget. It's a long, well, some people call it boring, but it's a very important process. And so for me, I go back and watch those before budget time, because there's a lot of good information to remind me of, okay, here's why money needed to go here, money needed to go there. Can we afford these raises? And it's a really good place to get those questions answered. But agreed, it's a question I think that we all ask each other, and go back to those sources to get the information.
I just have concerns.
And
And I'm not you,
No,
so
and-
I don't have the information you guys have.
But I'm going to ask that you, just as the public, are invited in March to our initial budget session to sit
Okay.
and watch. Join us.
Okay.
By all means.
Okay.
I
Is
learned-
it posted on your website?
It will be.
Okay.
It will be. As soon as that date is firm, everyone is welcome. It's right here in this room.
Okay. And just one more quick question. So is the Citizens Academy in person, or is that a webinar, or?
It's in person.
Okay, because I signed up for it, and I don't think I've gotten any confirmation
The
about
HR is
it.
reaching out. We're capping it at 15 just to keep it more
Okay.
intimate.
Will that be reaching out by email, or?
Reaching out via email.
Okay.
I think it started yesterday, Ms. Dickinson.
Okay.
Michelle, sorry.
Oh, you capped it at 15.
Yeah, we capped it at 15.
That'll be good. Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thanks again. Would anybody else like to come forward?
We have an executive session.
All right. Well, hearing none, we will move on to old business.
Old business, item A, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Ashland and General Heating and Air Conditioning, Inc. for the replacement of 6 HVAC units at the neighborhood in the amount of $102,500 to be paid by Community Development Block Grant Funds and for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item B, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Ashland and Service Pump and Supply for the 45th Street Pump Station duplex control and lighting upgrade in the amount of $18,421 for the Department of Utilities Division of Wastewater Collection.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item C, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Ashland and Service Pump and Supply for the Ashland High Service Pump VFDS in the amount of $271,592.80 for the Department of Utilities Division of Water Treatment Plant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item D, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between Lights Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 1620 Belmont Street in the amount of $5,200 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I just have a question.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a property over there on Main Street. Any other news update on that?
And we're in contact with the contractor now. Unfortunately, I think I passed along, there was some bad news. He lost his wife and then a few weeks later had a massive heart attack. And we've been trying to let him work through his rehab and give him a little extra time to get back, mainly because we really haven't had a lot of bidders recently and most likely getting back in line anyway. So on the next agenda, we'll have an extension of that contract for the commission to consider.
Okay.
But we have told them that, this is a finite amount of time. At some point, we're going to have to move forward one way or another.
Thanks.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item E, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Lights Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 322 Ringo Street in the amount of $4,400 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item F, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and approving change order number 1 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and Avonic Corporation in the amount of $2,500 and extending the contract for a period of 1 year for the purchase of parasitic acid at a price of 0.777 cents per pound for the Department of Utility Operations Division of Water Production and Wastewater Treatment.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item G, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky amending ordinance number 137, series of 2000, as previously amended relating to the traffic flow on 14th Street between Greenup Avenue and Winchester Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item H, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky amending ordinance number 169, series of 1995, as previously amended, commonly referred to as the stop sign ordinance, authorizing the installation of a stop sign northbound on 14th Street at its intersection with Greenup Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item I, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and approving change order number 1 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and C.J. Hughes Construction Company, Inc. for the Oakview Road Culvert Replacement Project, decreasing the contract in the amount of $29,136.76.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item J, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and approving change order number 1 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and A-Plus Contractors, LLC for the replacement and reconfiguration of emergency generators for 10 water pump station locations, increasing the contract in the amount of $9,650 and extending the contract for 90 days.
So moved.
Second.
Just want to mention this specific item for the public's note. This is exactly what we should be spending our money on. This is to keep our water pumps in service in case there's an ice storm, a snowstorm. I think we've had many times where we have electric go out, things like that happen, then next thing you know, we have no water. That's because the pump stations are no longer running. Once this is complete, that should resolve a lot of the issues we're having during ice storms or any loss of power. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Item K, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, adopting and enacting supplements S-86, S-87, S-88 to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ashland.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item L, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing Josh Blanton, Mayor Pro Temp, to execute a 5-year extension to the Housing Assistance Payments Contract between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and Harbor Hill LLP regarding the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Project-Based Assistance Housing Program and Voucher Programs for the Department of Community and Economic Development, adopted by ordinance number 104, series of 2009, and previously extended by ordinance number 100, series of 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item M, second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and approving change order number 1 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and garage door operators for the garage door system at the Ashland Fire Department Central Station, decreasing the contract in the amount of $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item N, the second reading and final adoption of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and approving change order number 1 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and C.J. Hughes Construction Company, Inc. for the Pollard Mills Infrastructure Project, Phase 3, decreasing the contract in the amount of $17,765.47.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda, a resolution of the City of Ashland, Kentucky adopting, authorizing, and approving the course of action presented by the city manager on the items appearing on the consent agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of City Commissioners of January 25, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. On number 11, could I ask the fire chief to come back up and tell us about this fire truck?
Is there a specific question on it?
Yeah, so we're going to be buying a new fire truck, and I understand it takes maybe 4 years to build the fire truck. Tell us why we're doing that so people know why we're doing this.
This particular truck has had several significant motor issues dating back to 2016, 17, 18 time period. It has reached a point to where we feel that it currently has a blown motor. The motor is completely blown and needs a complete overhaul, rebuild, which is going to be somewhat costly. Due to the fact that we had a rebuild in 2018 of this motor, we approached finance with what would be the best option for us to do. Do we continue putting funds into this particular piece of equipment, or do we look at purchasing another one? We felt that even if we had it repaired, when it returned, it would only serve as a reserve piece because of the issues. And the manufacturers have told us, and we've sent this piece of equipment to 2 different shops to be looked at. And both of them informed us that even if we had the repairs done, that may buy us 2 to 3 more years with this piece of equipment. So the decision was made, working with finance to see what the options were, to go ahead and purchase the new truck, putting funds back over the next 3 budget years to pay for it once it is completed in a 3-year time period. Right now, the lead time is in the 3 to 4 year time frame because they have so many back orders due to supply issues that they encountered back during COVID. It has shoved everything there's a big backlog. So,
Well, I think that's good planning, so we have time to budget this in. I mean, I think that's great. I have one other question. Are you going to have a truck to cover while this one's.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have currently placed one of our reserves into frontline service again. It just recently came out 2 years ago, I believe. So we were able to push it back into frontline service. We do have a rather old reserve piece right now that I believe will get us through for the next couple of years until we can get the other truck in.
Okay.
too.
It's not the one that was in the parade. No. Okay. All right, just clarifying. All right.
Thank you so much.
Just add a couple of, hold on a second, Chief, just add a couple other things. So this is a 2011 piece of equipment, and normally we get 20 years out of each one of these. This was purchased in 2011. It was not the best purchase for us, given our hilly terrain that we have here and also the load that it carries. The conversations that Chief and Finance had were also on how we do predictability on the replacement of these. And if you think we've purchased two pieces of equipment recently, so 20 years from now, are we going to get jacked up and bunched up? And there's a lot of different things that can happen. But this thing is, in my vernacular, a hangar queen that we've dumped a lot of money into, and that was the choice that we had right now. If we didn't have those two backup vehicles, not the 1902 version, we couldn't make this decision. We'd have to spend the $50,000 more than likely. But,
Yeah.
and it also doesn't affect our ISO rating. The other thing is in a big crisis, we still have the mutual aid agreements with the other communities, so we don't feel like we're taking unnecessary risk.
And to add to what City Manager was saying, in 2011, when this particular piece of equipment was bought, it was bought as an emergency purchase. We had a truck that had a frame that was broken.
Oh.
And it was kind of the only available piece at the time that we could get rather quickly. As the city manager said, some of the issues with the truck is it was never designed for our terrain, our climate type thing. It was a demo truck basically. And when it was bought, that was kind of one of the things. It wasn't really spec for our area. So, you know, with that being said too, and the issues with it, we just felt like it was best to go with this option.
Thank you. I think it's great. Yeah.
I want to extend my gratitude to the Finance Department for figuring out a way to make it happen for the fire department, because
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's public safety again. We're looking at the basic needs of our citizens,
Right.
and it's essential, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Just one last note on that. I mean, obviously to anybody, that sounds like a lot of money, but that's a good plan over those years. But also remember that the fire department, through all of their grant writing skills, have saved the city. $1.2 million was the last number that I saw, so.
More than that. Yeah.
Almost on the nose of the cost of this fire truck, so thank you all very much.
And I will say, from a standpoint of a department head, being able to sit down with finance and plan some of this out has been paramount in having some of these things take place, so.
Well, I think
thank you
it's
to them
great that we
also.
can budget it out for 3 years and be ready to pay for it when it's ready. So that was good job. And to finance, good job.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
New business, item A. First reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing Josh Blanton, Mayor Pro Tem, to execute an agreement with Safe Harbor of Northeast Kentucky, Inc., the subrecipient of $21,361.68 for employment, education, and case management from the 2023 program year community development block grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item B, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement between the Community Assistance Referral Service, Inc., CARES, the subrecipient of $27,561.44 for employment, education, case management from the 2023 program year community development block grant.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item C, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the City of Ashland and General Heating and Air Conditioning, Inc. for the replacement of one HVAC unit at the Ashland Senior Center in the amount of $9,000 to be paid by Community Development Block Grant Funds for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item D, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Lights Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 2434 Clinton Street in the amount of $3,600 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item E, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract with Lights Enterprises, Inc. for the purchase of all labor, materials, equipment, and services for the demolition and removal of all debris of 3013 Central Avenue in the amount of $3,200 for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item F, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and approving change order number 1 between the City of Ashland, Kentucky and Midwest Tank Management LLC for the DeBoer Hill Tank Mixing System, decreasing the contract in the amount of $75,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item G, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, amending the authorized positions list to add 1 public service officer in the Department of Police of the Classification and Compensation Plan as adopted by ordinance number 31, series of 2023, as previously amended.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. So this position is for parking enforcement. And this is an unbudgeted position, so here we are adding 63,000, required budget adjustment from somewhere. Can't we table this till the budget talks?
I defer to the city manager and finance, but
By the time we get this position hired, it's going to be 3 or 4 months. We'll need to start doing enforcement once the T2 system is in. Without the second person, we did have these discussions in the previous budget session and decided to defer it if I remember that correctly. Is that accurate?
yes, it's in the comprehensive parking plan.
I understand your concerns, Commissioner. My concern is that if we don't do this, we're not going to be able to do parking enforcement.
Well, we do the budget in July. It has to be done by July 1, am I correct, right?
Yes.
So 4 months, July, August, September, October. When will the parking enforcement be starting? When the roundabouts are finished and Winchester's open, correct?
When 13th to 18th is open, we're going to coordinate also for the T2 systems, the kiosks, I'm sorry, to be in place. And that's also going to be a revenue source for the city. So
You know, we haven't even voted on what we were going to charge or what we're going to pay for that system, or how much funds we're going to get from that system, which if we had that, we would know that it might pay for this position.
It's been, the system has been paid for already.
I mean, what will we make? Have we talked about how much we're going to get from the kiosks?
There are wild estimates on it. They range from, Ms. Hutzinger, are you here? What was the really, really high end that they had, which we didn't have any confidence in? I think the analysis that Ms. Hutzinger did was more realistic, to the tune of per year.
I've not looked at the numbers a little bit, so I don't remember exactly, but maybe even less than that, maybe 300,000. But again, I mean, those are estimates, you know.
Yeah.
Annually?
Yes.
No daily. We're going to have a crowd downtown. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we table this till budget talks.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? For lack of second, the motion fails. Okay.
Vote on.
We need to
Well,
get
I'll
on
just
with
say
budget.
again, if it takes 4 months to train for this, I don't see a need to have a parking person when we're not going to use it in February.
To hire.
To hire in February and take 4 months to train.
Take 4 months to get hired is what he
4 months
what he
to
said.
get hired.
Yeah.
4 months to get hired.
Yeah, the position is very, not only technical, some training has to go with it, but also, this person is going to be in the sensitive area of our department in the records section, so, I have to basically, think of this as just hiring, a police officer type status, but it's, they're going to be in and around some
Sensitive
very
information.
sensitive areas. And the-
So is this person going to be in the building or out on the
No,
street?
This person is part of a plan that, we're not just talking about a compartmentalized area between 13th and 18th and just around the enforcement area. We're charged with other areas from Front Street to Hilton Avenue, all the way from 13th to 22nd Street. along with South Ashland business area, residential parking that we have not been able to do over the past few years with only having one person. And the duties also probably going to be expanding to dealing with traffic control in our downtown area, with our concerns about loading and unloading and restricting lane traffic and the roundabout processes. We're also looking at minor traffic collision investigation that frees up police officers, so that I don't have officers I have to pull from the beat, that they work in that particular area, that we authorize the right other citations that we would have to require police officers to come in and write, that they'll be trained to do that and be sworn, or I would say sworn to be citation officers, but they're still non-sworn.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not opposed to having this position, but I'd like to wait to budget time, so I have to vote no.
Okay. All right.
Item H, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, amending ordinance number 101, series of 1986, as previously amended by amending Article 14, conditional uses, to add the keeping of farm animals, non-household, as a conditional use in certain residential zones for educational institutions, amending Article 16, definitions, and amending the table of permitted and conditional uses.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Did you add chickens on there? What's that this time?
You wanna maybe
Goats?
just
We
give
got
a
goats now?
brief explanation?
If you'd like, Catherine, please, this is a recommendation by the Planning Commission. You might as well stay up here for this one and the next one.
Yeah.
So yes, this would be adding a conditional use category to the zoning ordinance that would allow, while it does say non-household farm animals, it is restricted to only domesticated hens, only for educational institutions that have at least 5 acres of land and can keep the chickens at least 200 feet away from property lines.
And this was a recommendation of the Planning Commission, which is made up of volunteers appointed by this commission. Okay.
And if I'm not, I'm going to go a step further, and I know that's why you're sitting here. This is for a program that will be at Paul Blazer High School.
Yeah.
For educational purposes. And thank you for that program, and thank you for expanding those options. And much appreciation to the Planning Commission. I know it's a delicate issue about the chickens.
Yeah.
So,
Right, I mean, it's certainly a topic that has come up over the years. I believe there is still not really an appetite to allow anybody in the region to have chickens, but the Planning Commission did see this as an educational opportunity for the students and did set restrictions that I think are suitable.
thank you.
Can we have a goat?
Okay.
Oh, shoot. I want it from our lawn. Eat the grass.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item I, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, amending ordinance number 101, series of 1986, as previously amended by amending Article 16, definitions, to add the definition of permanent makeup and the definition of tattooing, and to amend the definition of personal service.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item J, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance to the City of Ashland, Kentucky, approving and adopting the 2024 utility allowance schedule for the Housing Choice Voucher Program for the City of Ashland Community and Economic Development Department, Division of Assisted Housing, Section 8.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Item K, reading and adoption of a municipal order entitled, a municipal order of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a commercial account right-of-way entry agreement between the City of Ashland and Charter Communications Operating LLC, Spectrum, allowing for the installation of internet service at the parking garage located at 17th Street and Carter Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item L, the mayor requests the board's concurrence on the appointment of Janet Holbrook to the Ashland Planning Commission for a 4-year term retroactive to January 1, 2024, and expiring on January 1, 2028.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item M, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, adopting the City of Ashland Civil Rights Assurance Program, Title VI.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item N, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a pre-award compliance review report for all applicants and recipients requesting EPA financial assistance for the Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item O, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky approving minority loan number 2024 M-001 to Jerk Riley's Billiards and Pub LLC in the amount of $50,000 to be paid from the 2023 program year Community Development Block Grant, and authorizing mayor to execute loan documents.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item P, first reading and approval of an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a purchase agreement between the City of Ashland and Sutphen Corporation for the purchase of a Sutphen Heavy Monarch Package Fire Truck in the amount of $1,038,056 for the Ashland Fire Department.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item Q, reading and adoption of a municipal order entitled, a municipal order of the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute and submit a community funding project request for fiscal year 2025. No wonder I can't see. I forgot to put my glasses back. Now it's really all clear to me. All right, municipal order for the City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing and directing the mayor to execute and submit a community funding project request for fiscal year 2025 appropriations for consideration of projects on behalf of the City of Ashland.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Can we get a motion to go in executive session for potential litigation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to go into executive session for potential litigation. Only that item will be discussed. We appreciate your attendance today. Thank you so much.
election year phenomenon when everybody.
Let the
comes
record
up.
reflect that we've returned from executive session. Only a potential litigation was discussed. No action was taken. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Folks, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Don't forget me.